Almost lost a finger in the cannery today.
You the new worker? Whatever. Make it quick, Tenderfoot. I'm busy. Foreman Granger. Mind those words don't come out of your mouth unless preceded by yes or right away or thank you. Shit. Silas still on about that? Here, take the fees. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell Reed I was late on my payment. Because they're not my fees and not my gravesite. Guy I worked with shot himself. I paid the bill. If you're not familiar with board law, you ought to be. Law requires delinquent gravesite fees to be paid by the deceased party's closest living relative, which meant me. Shame, though. Eugene was a good worker. Woke up one morning and put a round through his upper story. Can't imagine why. The kid was doing all right at his desk. We all thought he was his choice handguns aren't the most reliable. Eugene wasn't family. Yeah, I was the closest living person relative to his body. Suicide's a crime. The legal term is irreparable damage to company property. What Eugene did to himself was vandalism. When one of your workers commits a crime, the entire town pays. In other words, Edgewater would have been penalized pretty hard. Whatever Eugene was worth as an asset, we would have had to pay out of pocket to Spacer's Choice. Look around. Edgewater ain't exactly swimming in luxury. We can't afford to pay the body price of a suicide. All I know is Silas asked me for Eugene's gravesite fees, which means he was approved for burial, which means his papers went through, which means the town's in the clear. I'm just glad to put this whole ugly affair behind me. Eugene can rest his bones in peace, and the rest of us can get on with our own lives.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm doing with myself.
Merciful law. Is that a marauder's outfit? I don't want you wandering into my shop wearing something you've lifted off a corpse. Please don't touch anything. Your hands are probably crawling with germs. Physical hygiene recapitulates moral hygiene. Cleanliness is next to lawfulness. So everyone says, until someone forgets to cough into their elbow, and then we're all dying. I'm Conrad. You will report to me if your hair fails to meet Spacer's Choice aesthetic standards. You will also report to me in the event of your death. Burial, in the unfortunate event of a fatality. It's what a barber does. Ah, gravesite fees. Silas and I had talked about this at length. I thought I'd made it clear. prosperity of our fair settlement. When I expire, I expect Silas... Thank you, no. I despise the cereals. Tell Silas I can't afford to pay, and that I fully expect to have my medical rights. Some time ago, I fell ill with the plague. By the grace of the law, and frankly, I don't imagine I'll earn that right a second time. The barber work hasn't been profitable, you see. I've had to keep this old place running with my own savings. Not a bad idea. But I'd need some kind of collateral. Your idea intrigues me, but I'm afraid I don't have anything to give Silas. Much? What can I do for you? Oh? Am I in the company of a fellow? I am a Spacer's Choice certified surgeon, and if you must know, I can stitch a severed thumb with a 58% chance of a ship? Dear me. You seem to have lost the ability to distinguish between I don't approve of fantasizing. It's a dreadful habit. Vicar Maximilian, our man from the OSI, here to spread the message of scientism like a soothing balm upon a feverish head. Or so you'd expect. You'll find him in our local church, probably neglecting his duties. He doesn't seem to like us much. The vicar has not been with us long, and in his relatively short tenure in Edgewater, gives off the distinct whiff of superiority. Go ahead. The plague's come at us with a vengeance this year. Lost 6 workers in as many months. I wouldn't call them good workers, mind you, if they were any good. Fever, chills, fatigue, aching, vomiting, an excess of phlegm, a tendency towards belly aching. Whatever it may be, I have developed my own palliative. Boiled canid liver and a splash of ethanol. Company policy, friend. We don't... Mr. Thompson's brainchild. Have you met him yet? Thoughtful-looking fellow, stares out of his eye. What can I do for you? I am never wanting... As...
Grave digging's a fine profession. You run into... Conrad's barbershop is a yawning pit that swallows his every bit. I keep telling him he should cut a few corners, skimp out on the disinfectant. You gotta put the squeeze on Conrad. Find some dirt on him. Maybe check his back room. That's the word, extortion. Been on the tip of my tongue.
Thank the law. I've been requisitioning backup for months. You ever swung a truncheon? Let me see your rifling stance. The war! The coming apocalypse! I'm talking about mechanical soldier. Creatures forged in the fires of malevolence. I seen them over by the old power plant, clattering about when the swarms of mechanicals come clanging on. I told Silas I'd pay my dues if he agreed to join the resistance. Guess this means he's finally heard the calling. Mechanical repellent! A stroke of inspiration from the law itself. Here, I've been saving up a couple of bits for... I've been gathering up a war chest over the years. Saw tuna cans, mostly. Some Spacer's chaw. Few bit cards. I'll Enlistment fees. Yeah, I suppose. They have sent a scout, prowling around the junkyard just behind. The scout must not be permitted to return to its base of operations. Cross it off, then report back. Mechanical's got a weak spot in their midsections. I think the technical term is, You ever seen the way a mechanical just stands there? Just looking at you, scanning you with its murderous oculars. Mechanicals have been programmed to eliminate the human race. First they will rob us of our jobs, and once they have taken away our...
Have your rations yet?
Yep. What can I do for you? Go ahead. What can I do for you? You know about Eugene? How? You probably heard it from one of our local gossip mongers. Eugene's golden teeth were a family heirloom, representing 3 generations of poor dental hygiene. More than a few. Those teeth... I can't ask Silas to dig up a man's body and pry a few teeth loose from his jaw just to pay my bills. Yes, I suppose I'm... Here you are. Gravesite papers affixed with my signature and an IOU. Eugene was not a suicide. He put a bullet in his brain, yes, but that's largely... I was the one who prepared Eugene's body for interment. I discovered symptoms of the plague on his... Eugene overdosed on adrenatime, which is known to cause psychosis. It's a miracle of bureaucracy. If Eugene's death were filed as a suicide, we'd all pay the price for his crime. We can all thank our lucky stars that young Eugene was hopped up on medication and suffered its predictable... I included it all in my official report. I'd like to think I saved Edgewater a great deal of money. We never could have paid the fines...
Something I can do for you? Yeah? Well, yeah. Something I can do? You run into any... Reliable work from a freelancer. That's gonna take some getting used to. And I'll buy you a drink sometime. Suppose you've earned it. One good turn deserves another. Abernathy was sick? With the plague? That's just... I needed his fees because of his name. A, for Abernathy. He was at the top of my list, you see? Something I... Yeah? Yeah. Funny thing, Eugene's body ain't where... The night we was supposed to commend his body to the earth, I had his grave all... When I woke up, his body was gone. Spirited away. Let me know if you find...
Searching for repair bay. Navigation systems have attempting to misdirect or confuse a space. Damage to navigation systems. Searching.
Miss Holcomb, I need you to explain this wrestling. The grease monkey, Argo?
Sorry, Mr. Thompson, sir. You asked...
Seems we've got a guest. Really now, Parvati, I do wish you'd spoken up. I do apologize. I was given no forewarning of your arrival, or I might have welcomed you at the gates myself. I'm Reed Thompson, Outpost Administrator. I cannot help but know... Shirt, pants, work boots, company-approved colors. The, honorable apparel of a loyal worker?
Only regulator we got is hooked up to the town transformer. Mr. Thompson ain't liable to be keen on dismantling it.
I beg your pardon. I am most emphatically not keen on any such thing. I can't let you have our power regulator. But I happen to know of another one. And I happen to know exactly how you may retrieve it without frying yourself in the process. Oh yes. Saw someone put his hands on a regulator while the power was running. His legs were still twitching when... There's a power regulator in the old botanical lab. It's mostly abandoned, so all that power is being squandered. Go down to the geothermal plant. Reroute power from the botanical district over to us. Once their power's shut down, you can have their regulator and be along on your way. You're the first stranger to wander into town in an age. Scripture tells us that not... I was not entirely sure how to tell you this. The botanical labs are not legally inhabited, but there are people who live there. The people living in the botanical labs, they're deserters, former workers. I need them back at their posts. I need them to come. Good Lord, no, I don't want you killing anyone, least of all them. My hope is that by cutting off their power, you will convince those deserters to come back to town. Before you go to the plant, I want you to stop by the botanical lab. Speak to their leader, Adelaide. Tell her the power's about to go, and that it's time her band of deserters came back to town. Adelaide's older than the other deserters. She's dignified, kindly. From what I understand, that reason was me. I asked too much and pushed too hard. But I am ready to make amends if they are... We belong to one community, the Spacer's Choice family. If we dissolve into factions, then we will all perish separately.
My dad told me all about the plant. Taught me all he knew. I could come in useful. I mean, if that's all right with you, Mr. Thompson. Sir.
I hesitate to part ways with Miss Holcomb, but I cannot deny that she is talented and may prove useful to you. You will need an administrative passcode in order to enter the plant. I am trusting you with mine and trusting Miss Holcomb to guide you.
Great! I got my wrenches and diagnosticator.
Well, I am glad to hear that. Best of luck to you, and thank you again for your help. It is a lot to ask of us.
We better clear out of Mr. Thompson's office before we talk. Heading back. Be right there. On my way. Heading back. On my way. Coming. Yep, be right over. Hey, ma'am, can we talk? Sorry. Can we talk? Sorry. You just want to get out of here. And you likely don't want to tag along like me. It's just, Mr. Thompson has his own view on matters, on account of it's his job and what all, but that's not the only side of the tale. To Mr. Thompson, a person's a gear. It does its job quiet-like. If it squeaks or stutters, it gets replaced. The deserters are decent folk. I knew some of them before they left. Life's hard here, especially for them that don't fit in so well. We're one big Spacer's Choice family, but every family's got Mr. Thompson's aiming to take away their power. They'll have no lights to see, nor heat to cook. They'll be at the mercy of... I think you should talk to the town's vicar about it. Max, his name is. The mission's on the east side of town. You can't miss it, on account of it being... Thanks, ma'am. I just think when you gotta make a decision that'll hurt somebody, it's best to think on the right and... That's what my dad used to...
I'm sorry. I'll just be a minute.
You had a minute. Next one comes out of your pay.
He's off the threat.
I've always felt weird in here.
How rare to see you out.
Just tagging along, Vicar DeSoto.
I so rarely get new people to talk to. Name your poison, anything at all. Spiritual counseling, this season's toss...
But what? I thought you would talk to him.
You wanted to speak to me, Ms. Holcomb? Every time I've tried to engage you in conversation, you look at the floor, answer in single words, and slink away. I can't imagine what would be so grave as to drive her to my mission. What has Mr. Thompson asked her to do? That seems well within your expertise.
The way we do it's by cutting off power to the others. The ones who left.
Adelaide McDevitt's encampment. I can see why that troubles you. Miss Holcomb has a soft heart. Always has, if you believe the talk. Assuming your goal is to save as many as possible, then you should bring everyone together. Send the power to Edgewater and convince the deserters to return to the fold. Not if things are left to stand as they are. If you don't mind a bit of unsolicited advice, be cautious on your way to the geothermal plant. It is not as safe as you might assume. One of the reasons I transferred here was to fulfill my duty. I happen to know such a book is, as we speak, tainting a collector's library and my retrieval efforts have been thwarted by marauders who have overrun the property. Should you fare better than me... It's a handwritten journal. A faded blue cover with the name M. Bakonu handwritten in the lower corner. I'll mark where I saw it on your map. Assuming you're serious? I just want to keep the writing out of layman's hands. It wouldn't do. It is not only a beautiful relic of a bygone time, it's also the thoughts of an early thinker. Not many in this colony could understand its true value. Thank you. If you...
Move along, stranger. We don't want any trouble. I don't know you. Whatever you're looking for, it ain't here. Move along. Answers, huh? You must be one of those philosoph... Aegea what? Look, plants ain't my... If you're gonna start wandering around my camp, know that I got my sight. Over in the hothouse, tending crop. Enough with the questions. No offense. You don't know what enough with the... No, I'm sorry. That was unworthy of me. Lady named Zoe went missing some nights ago. Just up and vanished without a trace. Now I'm pacing around wondering if marauders got to her. It's not like Zoe to go wandering. Figured she might be out scavenging, but that ain't Can't imagine where she's gone. Appreciate it. I'll tell you what. Well, enough to know we never got on. Zoe and Stefan were close. If anybody knows the workings of her mind, he does. She was lazy and thoughtless, but she still... Vex me. If she told anybody, they ain't telling me. I'd check her room, but I got yelled at for snooping once. Little ways ago. She was always upset. What is...
If you're hungry, there's meat turning on the spit outside. If you're bearing illness, find a place to... Whatever your troubles with Edgewater, leave them at the gate. I have been called that, among other things. Green Thumb, grandmother, the strange old lady who keeps flowers.
Excuse me, Miss McDevitt? Sorry, it's just... You got such pretty trees in here.
Why, thank you. You're Robert's girl, aren't you? I remember when you were but a sprout. Are you staying long? You should try some of my tobaccorn tea. No, dear. The garden belongs to us all. The soil around the Vale went sour years ago. The secret recipe is a little bit of elbow grease, a dash of love, and a home for anyone who's ever turned their backs on Edgewater. So, like the spores of the puff... It is an unpleasant story, dear. But the short of it is that sometimes one wakes up and realizes the place that was once our home for much of... The home in which we spent our lives has left us behind, and so we must move on. And that is as much as I will say. Reed Thompson, you here on behalf of that cold-eyed reptile? Let's hear it. Make amends. Like everything else that comes out of Edgewater, that peace offering is canned. He would do such a thing. The question is, why would you agree to his plans? Cannery's got a regulator. You want ship parts, you ought to rip them out of the cannery's guts and leave us be. If you're going down to the plant, you should divert power away from Edgewater and toward our end of the grid. Think about it. You'd be liberating an entire town from a lifetime of service to that odious cannery. Seems... You've seen that miserable excuse for a town with your own lamps. Hollowed out workers laboring their lives. You know that's true, don't you, Ms. Holcomb? Your father died.
He was tired all the time, sure, but he was old, ma'am, and he raised me all by his...
Look what they did to this child. Lost her family to the company, and still she defends them.
I'm all right.
That was unkind of me. It's not much of a living. Every single person in that town has sold themselves to Spacer's Choice. The company owns them. All anyone ever does is toil over a cannery. They give their... So, what do you say? Divert power over to us. I trust you will...
Where are we headed? That's on account of how I never... I don't... She was in another division of the Spacer's Choice family. She worked in the Vale a few months. Her contract said any kids she had, expected or not, belonged to her office from the time of conception. It's sensible. Dad just fixed machines. She did some kind of crazy math, high-level stuff. Better to raise me on his time than hers. You mean about the mission being too clean? I know, but Vickers says the universe is a machine. Real machines have gunked up oil, scratches. The machine Vickers sees is one ain't never been run. It's not for people to live in. It's something on a museum shelf, under glass. It just comes off cold to me, is all. We can handle this. Get past that armor! Nice one. Everyone all right? I've always wanted to poke around in here.
System.
Incoming!
Sweeping the area.
handle this.